Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another It's a Great Day for Hockey Talk. I'm Paul Steigerwald, and what a pleasure it is as we look back at the 2016 and 2017 back-to-back Stanley Cup championships to be joined by Harnarayan Singh. You remember him. He really became kind of a cult figure at Pittsburgh during that run in 2016 on the way to the playoffs, just as Nick Bonino did, but largely because of the call that he made on the goal by Nick Bonino. It won the series for the Penguins against the Washington Capitals. Great to see you again, Harnarayan. How you doing?
I'm doing well, despite the circumstance of us not having hockey, and it would have been playoff time right now. So missing that, but other than that, doing well, spending time with family.
Yeah, I hope you and your family are safe, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about what is happening up there in Canada without hockey. I would think the hockey fans of Canada are going a little crazy, maybe playing a lot of knee hockey right now.
Yeah, you betcha. I think the old classic games are something that people are tuning into, and then of course if you're able to just play a little bit at home with your own family, that's what we're doing. Mini hockey sticks and mini hockey nets are the craze right now all over with my kids. And I saw somewhere a news report that in Florida they made wrestling a necessity. It was one of those things where that's something that they have to have. We might have to consider doing that here in Canada for hockey, of course.
Harnarayan, of course, is the voice of Hockey Night in Canada in Punjabi. And, just for the fans who may just wonder, where you're from or what your heritage is, could you explain what Punjabi is and how you ended up being a hockey fan?
Well, Punjabi is the third most spoken language in Canada. So English and French are the first two, and then Punjabi, just based on population. It originates from Eastern Asia. So India and Pakistan have people who speak Punjabi. That's where the language originates. And then a lot of people who've immigrated from those countries to Canada, still speak that language along with English, but being it a very vibrant culture, very fun, loud. People are proud of themselves, and they like to kind of, it's colorful. Let's put it that way, and that we incorporate that in our calls. So a number of years ago, about now 13 seasons ago, the CBC had introduced a multicultural initiative where they had different languages, hockey broadcast in different languages, and Punjabi became one of them. But it took off, and so we are in our 13th season now. It's with Sportsnet and Omni Television, and so Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi has, we've grown to just calling the games, have our own full intermissions, our full pregame, postgame show. The team has grown. My colleagues do a fantastic job. We have a ton of fun. So we're hockey guys, but we're just doing this in another language, and it's great to be a part of the family. It's growing the game as well because more people are joining the sport, playing the sport, following it because of the show. So there's been all sorts of different facets that have come about since its inception.
So when I was a kid and growing up in Pittsburgh, I became a hockey fan in my teens, and I wanted to be a hockey announcer pretty early in my life. And I would listen to Dan Kelly and Al Shaver and guys like that, Bob Wilson out of Boston, and of course Mike Lang here in Pittsburgh. But did you have early aspirations of being a hockey announcer? And when you were calling the games, were you calling them in your head in English or in Punjabi at that time?
Well, and of course, we were all fans of the game growing up. And I kind of knew early on I wasn't going to be an ice hockey player. My family, we weren't ice skaters originally. My parents having immigrated from India here in the 1960s, and I was in a small town in Brooks, Alberta. And so in southern Alberta, a lot of my friends were playing hockey, but I wasn't playing ice hockey. I was playing ball hockey a lot. And that was just because of the fact that I wasn't skating very much or as often. And when I was watching hockey, though, of course, that was when I kind of decided early on that calling games was going to be my thing. And it fit my personality well, too. And I would, annoy my family by running around the living room and acting out all of the hockey scenes, but then providing the commentary, doing the commercial interviews, and all of that broadcast element stuff as well, and even providing my own crowd noise. I had a ton of imaginative kind of scenarios where I was, in one case, I was the coach or GM, or in another case, I was the media person, and and giving out NHL awards on my own with my own podium and toy microphone. So it was a dream of mine to do this, and so I grew up listening to, in Canada, Bob Cole had the calls for the Stanley Cup Finals here for many years, and so he was the guy for all of those big moments. And then even when I think about the Olympics, when NHL players first went to the Olympics in '98 and 2002, he was the guy. So I loved how he was able to play up the drama, and so I try to incorporate that in my call. But there's other guys who I've also come to appreciate as the years have gone on. But because our culture is very vibrant, and we incorporate that enthusiasm in our calls. So if you were to listen to Hockey Night Punjabi, when a goal is scored, especially, that's when we let loose. We have fun. We incorporate music lyrics. We incorporate humor, and then we also incorporate what we call as a Punjabi hake. And the hake is like, so it's one of those things. It's a skill set for a Punjabi singer to be able to hold a note as long as possible. And so I've incorporated that a lot into my calls. Certain names allow it to work better. For example, Nick Bonino. And so we've had a lot of fun with that over the years.
So when you were doing those things in your house, you were doing them in Punjabi, in the Punjabi language, or did you switch back and forth, or what?
No, that's a good question. So initially, early on in the years, when I was younger, I was doing this in English because I didn't ever even fathom that having Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi, the Punjabi edition, would even be something possible. I mean, we're sitting here today, and this is, it's fascinating to see how successful this has been, but it's also fascinating to see how it's been a form of nation building, where it's bringing people together through the power of sport. And so I think it's something that's setting an example for other sports, for other countries to look into. But I had no idea, especially being in southern Alberta, a small town of just 10,000 people. And I also had along the way, whether I was in elementary school or junior high school, and then even when I finally got the courage to decide to go to broadcast school for my post-secondary education, I still had a lot of people along the way caution me, saying that, hey, you look really different. Everybody on TV is not like you, and be realistic. Like this is probably not, like, yeah, it's great to have this dream, but it's probably not something that's going to come to fruition. So you should seriously, think, what are you actually going to do to make a living? So I had a lot of people caution me along the way. And so, it was interesting, because you kind of had to think about it in terms of, would there be a spot for somebody like me? But then what happened is having Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi come to fruition and open the door for all of this. And now the success of the show has allowed so many people of different cultures and so many people of different ethnicities, no matter what language they speak, no matter what their background is to come into mainstream sports, especially here in Canada and within hockey.
So you get to travel and do all that, or you, I assume, you're calling games in all the buildings. What places do you travel to? Do you stay pretty much in Canada, or do you go around the National Hockey League?
We do stay more in Canada, and we have a studio. So initially the studio was based in Toronto, then it was in Calgary. Now our studio is based in Vancouver, so we're there a lot. But between the bigger Canadian markets, we have a presence all over there. I do travel quite a bit from wherever I'm assigned, and thankfully in the past couple of years I've also been assigned some games on the English side. So I have been able to travel to do games from buildings as a host role within the States as well. But obviously, the most memorable trip ever for myself and my colleagues, or anything to do with Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi, has to do with your city, Pittsburgh, and the Penguins fans. So, that's something that we are going to remember for the rest of our lives.
What do you remember about that playoff run for the Penguins, and just your experience here in the city of Pittsburgh?
So much. I mean, where do I even begin? That was, for us in Canada, it was a very peculiar situation. We didn't know what to expect. No Canadian teams had made the playoffs that season in 2016, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen in terms of ratings, in terms of the industry, but also just it was just uncharted territory. We had always followed the Canadian teams until they had fallen out, and then after that, we normally followed Sidney Crosby. So it was kind of fitting that Pittsburgh had a strong team then, and it started in terms of our show and the connection with Penguins fans. It started in the series against the Washington Capitals, and that's where the first Bonino call happened. Actually, there was actually a couple of them. So the first Bonino call happened there, and then when Pittsburgh won the series, there was another Bonino call because of the fact that he had so many game-winning goals during that playoff run, and that HBK line of with Hagelin on there as well, right? So and then that was a lot of fun to watch, and then we kind of started seeing the response from Pittsburgh fans on social media for the goal calls, and it was there was this wow factor, like but we still, because we weren't actually in Pittsburgh for that time, we didn't understand, we didn't have a grasp of how big of a deal this was becoming. And then lo and behold, we had requests from all over the place to redo the Bonino call when it came to the Stanley Cup final. And of course, right away, he scores the game, 2.5 minutes basically left to go in the third period, and he scores the game-winning goal there, and the adrenaline was pumping. And for those who don't know, it was just a mistake on my part where I had in my pregame notes I had written the lineup out, and for left wing, center, and right wing, I mistakenly wrote Bonino down for all three positions, and so that's where this thing came from. It was not planned at all, and so with the adrenaline pumping, and he scored a goal, and it came out as Bonino times 10 or 11, and so then we fast forward to it's becoming more and more clear that okay, there is a chance they're going to win this thing. And then I started getting in touch with Selena Pompiani from Penguins TV, who started telling me that, look, this is huge out here, and if they win the cup, would you be willing to come down for the parade? And I was just like, wow, like, are you serious? That would be incredible. And so talk to my colleagues, talk to my superiors, and we realized this was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And lo and behold, they win the cup, and the next thing you know, we're in downtown Pittsburgh. Even before that, when we got on the plane, we connected in Chicago, and people started recognizing us on the airplane. Are you the Bonino guys? Are you the Hockey Night Punjabi guys? And it was just like, wow, like we were not expecting that. And then when we got to the airport, there was even a tweet. Someone had tweeted the backside of us just walking in the airport, and the tweet said was, "They're here." And it was just like, wow. And we, and we were like, oh my goodness, like this is awesome. And then that's when we got to Pittsburgh, and we were just walking on the streets. We're near the arena, near our hotel, and people were coming up to us left, right, and center. And people were even stopping their cars along the sidewalk to get a picture with us. And when we met the Penguins team PR guys, they were like, you guys have no idea how big this is. We're like, what? And they said every radio station, TV station, they've been playing this call like nonstop for the past couple of weeks, and it's huge. Like, you have a cult following here. And they rolled out the red carpet. I mean, we got the full meal deal tour inside. But Paul, one of the best memories ever was the players had no idea we were there, and they were getting ready to take their Stanley Cup picture in the dressing room. And the way the Penguins PR guys had planned it, Tom McMillan and his team, they had decided that we were going to surprise the players with the Bonino call. And so it was such an amazing atmosphere because everybody was quiet. They had already won the cup, but this is, a couple of days later. And so the day of the parade, they're lacing up their skates, they're in uniform, and in the dressing room, the Stanley Cup's there, the Conn Smythe Trophy, the conference trophy as well. And we just walked in, and Bonino, and the players just loved it. And, Paul, there was such cool moments throughout the process too. Like, I remember Mike Sullivan, head coach, having to answer questions about so I'm listening from afar, I'm listening to the media conference for the coach, and the first question is, "Hey, what do you think of the Bonino call?" My jaw dropped. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, it's the Stanley Cup final, and the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins is being asked about a goal call that we did." So it was just incredible, and all of those moments, meeting the players, meeting the coaching staff, and them saying we were a part of their Stanley Cup run. I mean, I don't think you can get as close to winning a cup or being a part of a team or as close to a sport as a broadcaster as we were in those moments.
Great story. Do you remember your encounter with Mario during that time?
Of course. And, my colleagues and I were standing in the hallway in the arena, kind of just near the entrance of the dressing room. And we noticed kind of far to our left down the hall, this really tall figure. And there was like security detail, and he's walking towards us. And we're like, is that Mario Lemieux? And then, of course, as he came closer, we were like, oh my goodness, it is Mario Lemieux, like, one of the best players ever in the history of the game. And so we kind of, like, out of respect, I remember the feeling, even like we kind of just stood against the wall, almost at attention, that like, okay, greatness is about to walk in our presence in front of us. And he comes up and he's like, who did the Bonino call? And I put out my hand, and he shakes my hand, but he pulls me in for a hug. And he's like, you're going to be a part of Penguins history forever. Great job. And it's just like that moment. And we got a picture with him, and it was so historic in our lives. I mean, we're going to be telling our grandkids all these stories someday.
Did he say Lemieux, Lemieux, Lemieux or something? Or did you?
No, well, that's a lot tougher than Bonino, Bonino, Bonino. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's an awesome story too. So what you essentially did, Harnarayan, was tap into the same fervor and sort of wonder of the Penguins fans have for Mike Lang. It's a very similar
That's right.
dynamic. You know what I mean? They responded to you in the same way they've responded to Mike all these years. I think it's an interesting, folksy kind of a thing here in Pittsburgh that you tapped into right away. So then the parade comes, and I remember introducing you on the stage for the parade, and people were really excited to see you. What did you just think of that scene in downtown Pittsburgh? Did you ride in the parade, or did you just show up at the stage? I couldn't remember that part.
We did actually ride in the parade. So we were on one of those like old school buses. It was like a coach sort of thing. It was like and it was vintage. And what was incredible is, as we were going through the crowds of thousands of people along the streets, we started seeing signs. There were so many signs that said Bonino, 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 Bonino. So many signs that said "We love Hockey Night Punjabi," and that was incredible, because it's like, here we are, this show that is like based in Canada, and it's in a different language, yet we were able to somehow make such a connection with fans because of the sport in Pittsburgh, and it was incredible to see that. And people were. I remember going from the left window to the right window to the back, and people were calling, and I don't know how many times I did the Bonino call that day. It was my vocal cords were probably done. I think they literally were by the end of it, but it was incredible. Just making our way to the stage was just phenomenal as well. And we ran into Jeff Jimerson, the anthem singer. And my colleagues and I did a rendition of "O Canada" with him, belting at the top of our lungs. And then when we got to the stage, it was like, so we were standing by the stage, and you're surrounded by 400,000 people. And I loved how they had it set up, because it was like right in the middle of that intersection. And then there's like people going all different directions. And so the players started coming in with the Stanley Cup. It was something like out of a movie. It was just like, it almost felt like that's as close to hockey heaven as you can get. The atmosphere.
That's what I call it. That's what it's funny you say that, because that's exactly what I called it, hockey heaven. I called it that in 2009, standing on that stage, and I did it again in 2016.
That's right. And it's just like, you look at those the New York parade they have, or those types of like the Christmas ones, and the big parades that happen in the big cities across the United States. And then this was like that, but the enthusiasm was like times 1,000. Like, like it was just, everybody was on this high. and then the players come up, and the players, you introduce all the players, everybody's cheering, the Stanley Cup's there, and then immediately after the players, it's our turn. And for me, that blew me away too, because we didn't know exactly what to expect in terms of like what's going to happen, what's the order or whatever. Like the Penguins kept us, and we weren't in the loop because they wanted it to be a surprise and special for us too. But I remember when you introduced us right after the players, it was just like, wow, this is incredible, because they are the stars, but it was a moment for us to kind of almost share that spotlight, and it was just, as a broadcaster, you can't ask for more. And then of course we went out and did the Bonino call in front of the fans, and I can just picture it, so vividly, like the crowds and standing in front of us and everybody cheering, and it was a really special moment. And you also mentioned Mike Lang. We had a chance to chat with him a few times, and I love his creativity, and he was so gracious and so generous, and he also said he enjoyed the Bonino call as well, and that was so nice of him to say, and such a great guy, and someone I look up to and try to emulate too. His creativity is just off the charts.
Well, that is just a fantastic trip down memory lane for me, and I can tell by the way you talk about it that you're sort of living it all over again as you tell the stories. It's great to see your passion for it and how much it means to you. So you can imagine then what it means to the fans of Pittsburgh and to all the players who won that cup. But I think it's kind of cool that you could sort of share in the excitement of winning the cup as a guy from somewhere else. And that's unusual. Normally it's the hometown guy, but you seem to get caught up in it in a way that the most fervent Penguins fan could have gotten caught up in it. You know what I mean?
Definitely was special, and I've been, ever since then, it's really helped take my career to even different levels. A lot of my colleagues have been able to get mainstream jobs on the English side. Randeep Janda, one of my colleagues who was there on stage with me, he's a full-time radio show, sports afternoon show host now with Sportsnet in Vancouver. And also I have a book coming out in September, and the idea is kind of like how I got into hockey, my personal journey with my family, and then it all culminates in 2016 in that moment with the Bonino call, and then there's a little bit after as well about what's happened since then. But there's a lot of those great stories in a lot of detail that are going to be in that book from Penguin Random House. McClellan and Stewart is the publisher, and so that's going to be coming out in September. So Pittsburgh Penguins fans who loved that 2016 Cup run, a lot of good stories coming up in that as well.
What's the name of the book?
The name of the book is One Game at a Time, and it's that hockey cliche, but it's a great analogy for, I've been at this now 13 seasons and never could have imagined that it would have taken me to where I am today, and still taking it one game at a time. And so that's the name of the book, One Game at a Time, my journey from small town southern Alberta to hockey's biggest stage.
And where did you live exactly, or where are you now? I just want to get an idea of your location.
Yeah, I live in Calgary, Alberta, and so with my wife and kids, and it's they're big hockey fans, and they have a lot of Penguins memorabilia. Let's put it that way.
Fabulous. Harnarayan, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your excitement and support of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and so happy to have had the chance to talk to you and relive some of those great moments.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Okay, that was Harnarayan Singh, the man who said, go ahead and say it again one more time.
Bonino, 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 Nick Bonino!
Thanks for watching. It's a great day for Hockey Talk presented by PPG. I'm Paul Steigerwald. We'll talk to you next time.